Guys, I want to say this while this right here is rolling in the B-roll footage. This take from Tim Pool has made me completely and totally reevaluate my position. And no, not my position on what happened, but my position when it comes to defending certain people, certain individuals. If I have ever done that on this channel, well, this right here is going to be my mea culpa moment if it's ever seen that way. However, I do not regret actually defending said person at that time. Think about it more as me defending their take, which is exactly what I'm going to be doing from now on. And this, my friends, this take right here is not one that can be defended.
Pull your sweater back and you've got a gun. You put your hand up and say, don't come close to me, bro. I'm warning you right now. Do not come close. Do not take another step. Then the guy grabs your arm and makes a move. So you draw your weapon and you use it. Okay, make the argument. You have no right to defend yourself when you're being attacked by a guy. Make the argument. By all means, go ahead and do so. I ain't going to do it. I don't know the circumstances. You can argue that you're in a place you're not supposed to be. You can argue it's that guy's house, and it doesn't matter. A guy can invite you into your neighbor could be like, come on over, brother. And then if he gets physical with you, you can defend yourself. And then what? The police are going to be like, well, you were in his house. And it's like, yeah, you invited me in. It's like, the door was open.
Death. But what could have led to this death and how we even got here? Where you at?
First of all, getting ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. So when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a fuck what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
There was even a bit about steak knives, which is really kind of a dumb point that we'll get to over the course of this, but you guys obviously saw that little montage there, and we got to talk about why it is that Tim Pool is wrong on this. Now, guys, before we fully dig into this, I'm getting a bit of a late start at this moment in time, and of course there are reasons for that. So this right here might be the only video that gets released today, which means I'm probably going to double up on the weekend. Those topics, of course, are going to include Megyn Kelly's very, very bad take on men, which is also going to then snowball to Anna Kasparian completely losing it on TYT over Kamala Harris's speech earlier this month, where she went and basically said, we all knew this was coming about tariffs and crap. Don't get me started. Not going to fully go off the deep end here. And I may come back to the Joe Rogan, Douglas Murray situation where they had a debate with Dave Smith. I may come back to that on Sunday. But then again, at the same time, though, Joe is pretty daggone bad when it comes to the topic of copyright. But yeah, that's going to be kind of a preview of the weekend. Hopefully we can get all three of those videos done. Still, though, this take right here has got a lot of people looking at Tim and asking him the question, were you trolling? And if you were trolling, this right here was obviously a pretty bad troll. I mean, Tim even put up bits and pieces, tweets like knives in the Second Amendment, just all kinds of crazy stuff that deserves its own deep dive that a lot of people immediately started to think, well, it's a bad take, but now he's just kind of trolling to cover his tracks. And by the way, that was after he had a good take versus Kim Iverson earlier in the day, because Kim Iverson, quite frankly, is a nut. But anyway, before we fully dig into this right here, make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel. Please, if you like this type of content and you haven't subscribed yet, please hit the subscribe button. Also, if possible, please cut the notifications bell on. I would love to love you guys to be able to be notified of these videos when they are released. And if possible, please hit that like button. Just hit the thumbs up button right there on your phone or your device. So that way it will make sure that this video stands a much better chance at going up into the algorithm and getting out to a much larger audience. And let us go ahead and dig into this. Okay, so here's the deal. This has been a pretty hot topic for over a week now. The topic, of course, involves Karmelo Anthony, the guy who stabbed Austin Metcalf at the Texas track meet a little over a week ago, or that was when it was actually reported. The police report has came out. I've done a couple of videos on this, and of course the reaction, how it is that you've got certain people out there who are donating heavy amounts of money to Karmelo Anthony's defense fund. There's like $1 million bond, and they may be trying to get him out, which of course I think would actually not be very smart, because eventually you got to pay that money back. Yeah. Now, the topic then becomes, should Mr. Anthony be allowed to have that money? Well, when you actually boil down the take at first when it comes, because that's really how this take started in his segment on, which was about 27 minutes, That's actually where it started at, where it was that people were upset that the give, send, go is being allowed for Mr. Anthony. And to tell you the truth, it's not a bad point when somebody points out the fact that, well, what if somebody of the right gets into a situation like this right here? The problem with the take is that the take itself is bad because it was completely and totally unnecessary. Mr. Anthony had been given every single sign in the world to tell him to simply walk away, and instead he chose to stab Mr. Metcalf in the chest, killing him.
It was this time the male took out a knife and stabbed Austin and then left the scene. This was all redacted remembered when he talked to me. After this, I then stood by with 3 athlete witnesses until CID arrived and interviewed them. I was relieved by an SRO and went back to patrol. So you've got numerous witness statements. A horrifying story, mind you. I feel for this family. I mean, it's terrible. The important thing that I'm going to break down on this,
There's also this take about defense and self-defense that we'll get to here in a second. But basically what Tim was arguing for was that, if you find yourself in trouble, you may need the ability, especially if you're in trouble unjustly, you may need the ability to have access to funds that might help you out in your legal case, potentially get you off. That take right there, as much as I may disagree about his take when it comes to Mr. Anthony and the self-defense claim, that actually makes some sense. But the problem is this here. If we separate that there from what actually happened, then it's kind of a misnomer, meaning it's kind of pointless to even bring that up, especially given the nature of this case. By the way, I want to say this right before we go any further, because there have been people, and myself included, who have talked about this, because I have said every option should be on the table when it comes to punishment for Mr. Anthony. It has already been reported that the Collin County District Attorney has announced that they will not be seeking the death penalty in this case. The reason why is because Mr. Anthony is 17 years old. I will tell you towards the end of the video what I think will actually happen and give you guys my overall take on what the punishment will probably be, because it does seem to me like he probably will be found guilty, especially given the location where they are at and also the nature of the crime, which I think is much, much more important in this because, dude, you pulled out a knife that was not completely necessary, and you were given every single red flag in the world telling you to leave. And then, of course, the police report only makes matters worse for Karmelo. And then to go on top of that, and I'll link the video in the description box from Actual Justice Warrior, who talked about how it is that Mr. Anthony's family has also already made matters a lot worse for him. It looks like premeditated murder, which, of course, would be first degree, which means that he probably still would get locked up while it would be a lighter sentence, not the death penalty. He probably would still get life in prison. Of course, it will probably come with the possibility of parole, but I shall get to that a little bit later on. So let's go back to what Tim's take was the day after he looked at everything and after he read the police report. Roughly about a minute, but here you go.
Tarian would take such a strong approach. Here's the problems we have. We don't know exactly what went down right now. The body camera footage will help. We have some witness statements, but these are just witness statements. It sounds like Karmelo escalated this and did not need to. But I don't think you're going to get first degree murder, potentially second. Now, if the law is that you can't have a knife on school grounds, he might get first degree murder for this. That could be the extenuating circumstance, for which I disagree. I don't live in a world where you can vote away our right to keep and bear arms and defend ourselves. And I believe that keeping to bearing arms includes knives. I do. Now, Jack Posobiec says there is currently no evidence Karmelo Anthony acted. Also, a crowd of people witnessed what he did, and none of them gave conflicting statements that present any scenario other than a shock stabbing. Videos, photos, anything. I don't think Karmelo's some innocent kid who did nothing. Here's what I think.
Tim, he stabbed the boy in the chest with a knife. He killed him. Now, Mr. Metcalf did not have a knife on him. He did not approach him with a knife. Okay, they just simply asked him to leave. Now, granted, the conversation of what else may have been said in that will come up a little bit later on. But essentially, it boils down to you need to leave. There's over 30 witnesses. A bunch of people in the area can see this. By the way, the take does get worse, as you guys will see here soon. But that right there is a clear-cut sign that maybe you need to walk away. Instead, what did he do? What did he say? What did he say? Touch my bag and see what the hell happens. Okay, look, man, you got... stabs him right there in the chest. That right there is what the hell happened. He took off running. You just read the news report. You just read the police report, which, by the way, will be linked in the description box, which also states that Mr. Anthony threw the knife away, took off running, later on said, yeah, I'm the guy who did it. Yeah, it was self-defense. Then he turned right back and said, but is the guy okay? I mean, it sounds much much easier to explain when you just get to the truth and stop middling around with this dilly-dally horseshit that Tim is about to do. But let's continue.
It was downpour. Likely clouds were over the field and rain was coming. This would explain why Karmelo Anthony went to the tent to sit down. According to the witnesses, he went there while the Memorial High School students were already there. Karmelo went and sat down, and these guys said, "You can't be here." There was an altercation, which resulted in either a shoving, a touching, or a grabbing. These things matter. If Austin Metcalf simply put his hand on his shoulder and says, "Bro, you got to go," and then got stabbed, murder. Probably second degree. With the, I would say the extenuating circumstance of a weapon-free zone being a school, you could probably get to first-degree murder. If it was that, Austin Metcalf
the
was...
The topic of having a knife at school, that does come up a little bit later on. I'll get to that here soon. But in the montage, you saw Charleston White. You also saw a small bit from Marcellus Wiley's channel. And, of course, I'm going to be splicing that in right now because the conversation then shifts to, well, what actually escalated the situation? What made Mr. Anthony seem like he needed to do something about this? Why he felt the need to stab Mr. Metcalf in the chest? Well, let me play this first part, roughly 1 minute and 11 seconds from Marcellus Wiley's channel. Let me go ahead and play it.
And so sorry, and condolences to the family and the parents and the friends of everybody involved.
No greater
because
devastation.
so many lives are ruined now. Now,
So
as
young.
far as how it went down, I can guarantee it didn't go down as easily as they said it would.
Okay,
That
I'm listening.
Nobody just said, "Move, you're in the wrong tent," and then get stabbed in the heart. That it didn't happen that way.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm
There was some words. There was maybe some names. There was some feeling of superiority. There was something that triggered that shit. And we know that. And any black person who reads that story is gonna think something else happened here. That is not. It's too clean. They're saying he's not sitting there getting away from the rain and somebody says, "You can't sit here. I'm sorry, you can't sit here. This is our space. Would you kindly leave?" And you get up and stab somebody.
Still no reason to stab somebody. By the way, this topic of the rain will come up, but once again, like I had said in the previous video about the possibility of a video, it's not going to amount to shit, especially given the fact that you've got so many witnesses that saw the incident. By the way, those witnesses denotes a crowd. Those witnesses also denotes that Mr. Anthony probably should have walked the hell away. And eventually he would. Well, actually, he would run away, but he would do that after sticking a knife in a guy's chest. Which, by the way, does come up in this next segment. So let's get to that. This one right here is a little bit longer. Here you go.
What he's
Why does a
saying
kid have
is this. He's saying there's a lot of gas, and I'm with Justin, but then I understand what you're saying. People have died for less. Like, people have died for the most senseless. You're like, no way. They're like, no, he's gone because of that. There's a lot of gas here, but not enough fire to light it. Because you're like, that's it? Like, the kid just...
There's no way that's it.
So, to your point, how did it explode to that point? Because there's all this gas but no fire. But I heard you too.
Why does the high school kid have a knife at a track meet? Like,
That was
why?
my first thought.
Something you walking around with. You're not carrying nothing unless you know somebody's
Threats
after
exist.
you, or you've been doing or acting some type of way to where you gotta handle that. But why does he have a freaking knife? But I do feel what you're saying. It has to be more. No kid is just going to react. I have seen stuff happen, but at a track meet, it had to have something. It has to
You're
be.
saying you got the knife because either A, they've been fucking with you, something, or B, you just about that life where I'm up here just in case somebody want them.
And something else, too. Before I answer all that there and get back to Tim, I did play Charleston White earlier because Charleston White, quite frankly, told the truth, especially when it comes to Texas law. Let me play that, and then I will hit all of that there on the other side because it's actually much, much simpler than you might would think. But here you go.
For approaching some of these young kids. What a 13-year-old will kick a 40-year-old's ass.
That's true.
And that's what happened in that situation. He underestimated this kid, and he was looking for trouble. But by law, he was right. And he was judged by his peers. So we can't say nothing once you're judged by your peers.
Well, what do you think's going to happen in this Austin Metcalf thing? You think he's gonna be able to
Metcalf ass go, well, no, that boy going to jail.
Carmelo Anthony's going to go to jail.
Carmelo going to jail.
Yeah, he's going to jail. But I'll explain how that works towards the end of the video. Here's the thing. Let's go back to the take of Marcellus Wiley. So why does he have a knife on him? I think the guy in the black basically said it best. He said, look, man, why do you feel the need to even have a knife on you? Now, granted, I could hear some people saying, well, for personal protection. Personal protection. Okay. You have a knife for personal protection. Why is it school? You're not supposed to have a knife on school grounds. By the way, that will come up a little bit later on because when we get back to Tim, we'll see exactly how stupid the take is. Also, something else too what Marcellus Wiley was saying. Okay, they were effing with you. Okay, even if they were effing with you, you should have walked away in this case. It doesn't give you a right to stab old boy in the chest. As Charleston White will explain here soon. But I'm just about that life. There are so many possibilities here in a courtroom that could be stuck on Mr. Anthony that could make the situation a lot worse for him than it probably needed to be. But then again, though, at the same time, though, as I've said before, it was never necessary to stab the kid in the heart. I said in the previous video, why not fisticuffs? Oh, wait, you got a crowd out there. There's a bunch of people out there. They might jump in and get involved. Yeah, the most they'll probably do is just break it up. You got your hit in, whatnot. The incident probably eventually gets squashed. You eventually move past it. The father doesn't seem to me like he wants any additional drama. That right there being the father of Austin Metcalf. I've talked about my disagreements with that, but how it is I also understand why he feels the way he does. But the point is this right here. This guy, Mr. Anthony, already looks like somebody who was looking for trouble, and that's not exactly going to play well in the courtroom. And then, of course, there's also this bit right here from Charleston White where he basically lays down that just because it's a bully, in case it's a bully, that doesn't mean the bully is supposed to die. But here you go.
Because listen, you cannot bring a weapon to school.
Yeah.
So you can't say I was
What if he says self-defense?
There's no self-defense because if you are afraid the day before where you have to take a weapon to school, why not notify your parents? Parents, you notify the school teacher. School teacher, let's bring these kids in here and resolve this issue. It's called conflict resolution. We was taught in homes that has morals and values, you tell the teacher. Somebody fucking with you, you tell the teacher. Let the teachers know so when y'all have an altercation, you're cleared and you're covered. Documentation beats conversation. So where's the documentation to say this is self-defense? It's a premeditated crime because you took a weapon in fear. Anticipating to ready to run track with other kids and you got a knife on you. No, man, you got to go to jail. You got to go. So when is it all right to kill the bully? I don't give a fuck what the bully did. He don't have a right to die.
Yeah, even if Mr. Metcalf was the bully in this situation, it's not like he walked up to him with a knife. It's not like he walked up to him with a gun. It's not like he walked up to him with a club in his hand saying, I'm going to knock you out. That's not what the hell happened. They asked you to move. Mr. Anthony's response was touch my bag and see what happens. Dude, look, man, you got to go. That right there is what the hell happened. He took off running like the coward he is. By the way, the topic of aggressiveness comes up by Charleston White as well. And he's got some things to say about that, which I'll play much more towards the end of the video. But this take by Tim, which, by the way, we're getting back to now, just goes to show you exactly how out of touch he is. But let me go ahead and kind of play some more of that take and go ahead and get the next part of this video before we close it down. So let's go ahead and get back to it. This one right here is a little bit shorter than the previous, but of course, you guys know me. It's very long, so obviously I had to edit it down. The full video, in fact, will be in the description box for you guys to see, but here you go.
Guys, and he shoved him, and then he said, touch me and find out what happens, and the guy grabbed him. You literally have a self-defense claim. Now, you can still argue manslaughter in that regard, that you don't stab a guy for grabbing you. But this is going to play its self-defense in a ton of circumstances, especially in Texas. Okay, this is not a statement on Karmelo Anthony. I'm going to say this generally speaking. It is not my responsibility nor your responsibility to determine the extent of force a person is willing to use when they make contact with you. Okay? That is some blue state garbage. If I am standing person who was assaulted, they grabbed you with force, with intent. I do not believe it is a responsibility of that person to then determine whether or not they are facing serious bodily harm or death. Do not grab and attack people. The problem with this story, Karmelo Anthony escalated it to an extreme degree, and that is going to play here. So he's likely going to get something, but I think they may be overcharging him. I reject wholeheartedly.
Maybe self-defense in his eyes, but he ran his mouth first, then did the deed, took off running. all this stuff about the rain, the downpour, all that type of stuff there, that's not going to make a hill of damn beans when you get inside of a courtroom and you've got over 30 fucking people telling you they saw what the hell happened. Well, how the hell could they have seen it? It's raining. It's dark. Did you ever think that maybe the high school was, I don't know, the seating area was well lit? Did you think about that, Tim? Look, I know Tim is a high school dropout. I'm a high school dropout too. I'm not saying this to demean Tim Pool, but I did go to high school and I did go to football games. I did go to track meets. You know what I noticed? Every single one of these track meets at night, it was well lit. Not only was the field well lit, but also the seating area was well lit. This right here is just a bad take. But still, though, at the same time, then out of the middle of nowhere, the conversation, it turns into how knives are cut under the Second Amendment. Well, Tim put out a tweet there basically trolling everybody, saying, you know what, the right to bear arms, it only goes to muskets and stuff because they're actual arms, when that's actually a very, very dumb take, because every single firearm is in fact a firearm, whether it's a musket or not.
Act wholeheartedly, especially from these libertarians, that a school says you're not allowed to have weapons. Oh, spare me. Did the dude grab a steak knife from the cafeteria? Did he have a combat blade? Did he have a switchblade? Was it a utility knife? These things matter. But the whole argument about gun
boys ain't gonna bully me. I'm too hard for this right here. They touch my back and see what happens. That right there is what the fuck happened in this case, Tim. Then again, though, like I said, he's from South Chicago, streets, this, that, and the other. Maybe he believes in self-defense. But still, though, at the same time, though, it was a bad take. What happened here was completely and totally unnecessary. What Mr. Anthony should have done was just simply walked away. We've already had the conversation on right, wrong. We've already talked about that. I don't think we need to rehash that. Right now, it's all about what happens when we get to the courtroom, what happens when the guy gets charged. Yeah, this right here was just a bad take by Tim Pool. It's a bad take that, quite frankly, has gotten him a lot of criticism online. Even the liberal hive mind called him retarded. It takes a lot to piss off a liberal hive mind, that's all I'm going to say. So, what do I think? Well, let's go back to Charleston White. Because Charleston White, to open the segment, had this right here, roughly 46 seconds to say. And of course, he's not lying about this, but of course there are some white families, Hispanic families, who have the same exact issue. It just so happens to be more predominant in his community. But
Talking about it, but where do you...
It is. Trayvon Martin was an angry black kid that had to be sent to his father because he lacked discipline, grew up in a home with his single mother. Any well-behaved kid with manners that had respect of adults, once George Zimmerman approached him, whether he's right or wrong, as a child, this is an adult. You get off the phone with that fat-ass girlfriend you trying to fuck, you call your dad and say, hey, Dad, it's an adult around here to just stop me. He says he's calling the police. Rather than doing that, he had an attitude because as young black males in this country, we have an authority problem because we walking around angry, displaced from our father's issues, but we resent our mothers.
That's true.
So we're a ticking time bomb. And Trayvon Martin could fight. So that's why.
Exactly. Lots of anger, lots of discontent. You got the media constantly whipping up hatred against white people. Something else, too, that I'll include that video as well, is that he talked about how it was that the community itself was going to have a heart for Mr. Metcalf. Now, it's possible that come sentencing, they may be light on Mr. Anthony, which we'll talk about here in a second. But still, though, at the same time, this is becoming more and more and more pervasive amongst one community. I mentioned that in the previous video. But I did also mention in that video that I did about this very, very same topic, especially my response to the Amazing Lucas, that I did mention that in that video that there were also a lot of families who actually raised their kids the right way. It's culture. It's not really the race, it's the culture. It just so happens to be that one race has had a much, much more negative form of culture ingrained. But as somebody who lives in the South, who's around people, black people all the time, I can tell you right now, it's not every single black person. It seems more predominant. And of course, to go on top of that, it goes back to the whole per capita argument. Like I said before, it's not even the dominant minority anymore. So yeah, it's going to seem a little bit more pervasive than what it is. And guess what? It is kind of pervasive. However, that being pervasiveness, that pervasiveness covers up the good aspects, the good people who are actually working hard not to raise their kids like what Mr. Anthony was raised. Which brings me to my final bit, which is to say that we've already ragged on Tim Pool enough in this video, so let me tell you what I think ends up happening. I think what happens is that when this case right here does get to a trial, I believe that what they're going to be seeking is that they're going to be seeking first-degree murder with the possibility of with life with the possibility of parole. I think that more than likely was what's going to happen. They're going to find Mr. Anthony guilty. There may be even a push from the family to say, I don't know, maybe the father, for example, to beg for some kind of mercy here. However, when it gets to sentencing, I think that they're going to take more of the weight of the mother and the brother, who I personally believe are going to want to bring down the hammer, and they're going to say, lock his ass up. I don't want his ass being anywhere near society. So what I see is life with the possibility of parole, and I see him being found guilty. However, the reaction to all that there, I'm still kind of working on what I think is probably going to happen. I'm not Nostradamus, but I have a feeling that the minute this trial starts and the minute it goes to an actual verdict, I have a feeling that the verdict is going to piss some people off and that they're probably going to do the normal thing that they always do when they don't get their way. Riot, cause chaos, and burn things. However, in Texas, probably not a good idea to do so. Make sure you guys please hit that like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say. And one last nugget. Sorry. If what I just said happens and it goes south for the people who riot, Tim Pool will show you who the hell he really is. Like button, subscribe, share the video, sign up in the comments. I'll try that second video later on this evening. I'll see you guys later.